Hey guys, we are back. Welcome to Rankable episode 52. I'm your host as usual, Jared Thomas, Senior Account Executive at iPullRank. And we got a special episode planned out for you guys today. We're going to talk about the future of sales and what is it going to look like moving forward, right? So, of course, I have a special guest with you guys for you guys today. She's a queen. I've been a fan of her content for the past 2 years. When I've been building my personal brand, she's somebody that I've looked to. I've shared content, definitely look forward to, this conversation. But she has 10 plus years experience in the industry. She's a sales savant. She's also a LinkedIn top voice in the sales niche. Like, you know what I mean? Let them know, queen. Let them know, queen. But I want to introduce everybody to Chaniqua, Ivey, Nikki, to most. How are you, queen? How's it going so far?
I'm doing well. You might be the first person that's introduced me as Chaniqua. I like Nikki to most. I haven't found like a really sort of snappy way to communicate. Like, yes, my name is Chaniqua and I love my name, but also too many people know me as Nikki for me to just like leave that out, right?
I feel you.
Not that they wouldn't like see that I'm the same person.
You're the same person. Be your authentic self.
People out here, you got to make it easy. What was the question?
No. The question we're just gonna flow with it.
I'm introducing myself. All right. So I have been the interim director of sales at a company called Assembly. Actually wrapping up that project. It was part of my my work for Culture Perspective with a gentleman named Marcus Knight, who you and I both
Shout out to Marcus. Marcus, what up, bro?
Yeah. And I can only tell you that like in the year and a half since I've been working with Marcus, working in the consultancy space, I think that whatever I thought I knew about how sales orgs work and what ends up being broken and why, leveled all of that up because, it's jungle out there. No, but I'm fortunate to be able to learn those things with Culture Perspective. And I guess I bring that up, right, as far as being able to sort of have this bird's eye view and see what ends up working and not working is because, I never, when I started my career, I didn't get the kind of expertise and the kind of strategy and things like that that Marcus and the other gentlemen that I work with are installing. That didn't come from people who looked like me or who looked who looked like Ellis. And so being able to be a part of that and have some people, I mean, they're starting their first job in a sales, their first sales role. And we are there to consult their company. And so they're being initiated, so to speak, into their sales career without it having to ever be a question whether or not sales expertise comes from Black people. So that's what I do. And that's part of the reason why I'm excited to do it for Culture Perspective. But beyond that, it's because, enabling salespeople is what I'm about.
Exactly.
It's fun. It is rooted in what I'm studied at. I studied broadcasting and journalism in college. And so it all really does end up coming down to just effective communication and connecting people. So I guess I say that to say this. I'm walking in my purpose, guys. This is I'm doing what I was meant to always do.
I love it. And you hit on a few points that I would love to break down and talk with you, right? Because it's the same thing. I was in the same boat. Like when I first started in sales, like I just lucked up into sales, right? When I got to a first digital marketing, digital sales job, I was selling ad software and display advertising, right? It was hit your number by Friday, you're gone by Monday. It was one of those type. It was boiler room. You just smile and dial. There was no insights, no strategic insights, no way to use data in order to communicate with your customers. It was like, this is what we got. You better go sell it. And if you don't, you're gone, right? And I stayed there for 3 years, right? And I think the biggest thing right now is we all are in the same boat, right? Sales is the biggest turnover of any position, right? 77% of sales folks fail in their positions because we weren't trained properly. And it depends on who and what company you go to, depends on the level of expertise you're going to end up receiving, right? So I would love to hear from you. Like, how were you trained when you came in? And what are some of the things that you think are broken in the industry, or at least in our vertical?
Yeah. So I was lucky in a lot of ways. I was lucky that my very first sales role in B2B tech was sort of one of the classically, difficult, for lack of a better term, and at times overwhelming styles of sales job. What I mean is, right, it was this high volume cold call type beat, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it was just like you talked about. It was, when you walk in that if you don't meet this specific expectation by this time, like that's it, right?
That's it. Yeah.
I think, and we'll come back to this, I probably interpreted that a little bit too harshly to begin with, right? Like that's it for my entire sales career. Now, just meant that it was it in that role.
Exactly.
Calm down. Which I need to be told frequently, as you'll learn.
But that is real though. As a young professional though, right? Me and you coming in the industry at 22, that is everything.
Yes. So I was like, if I fail at this, then maybe I'm not cut out for it. But
Exactly.
anyway.
Yeah.
So what it was like, and why I say that I was lucky is because a lot of the things that I will talk about as far as being broken, were not in this environment, right?
Yeah.
So it was 100% a culture of training and coaching. It wasn't just like where they say it's ongoing.
Yeah.
But really, it's like for a week, you look at a bunch of sales enablement docs and then they throw you onto the phones. Like, there was that element of throw them in and see if they can swim. But that was, bolstered by things like optional 7 a.m., call batting cages. So
that sounds interesting. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Like, what's a call batting cage?
I hadn't either. So we don't start our day, right, as a team until 8 a.m. That's when like the morning meeting is the standard. Yeah. But there were leaders, right? Often the VP of sales himself, other folks, as part of the executive, sales leadership team would be leading these 7 a.m., 6 a.m. Trainings, and they were optional. So that was the first thing that I got to like really learn and feel, right? Which is that I can get as much out of this as I put into it. But I have to be careful about what that as much is made of, right? Like, does that mean I can get as much money? Like, is it going to be a monetary return for me getting up and being at this meeting at 7 a.m.? Sometimes. Yeah, it makes sense. But mostly, though, it's building that muscle of taking control of your own destiny, which I think is at the heart of what is attractive, what is perhaps most attractive about a sales career to begin with.
Absolutely.
And it's something that if you nail here in your very first sales job or in your entry level, your first 5 years of your career, if you nail that, then it's not that everything else becomes easier, but you become more confident about how you can address and overcome what comes next. So I was lucky that they instilled that these trainings were even offered, because I can tell you without naming these people's names that these are folks now who charge like $500, $750 an hour if you wanted that kind of training. Yeah. But shout out to them. Right? And then in addition to that, though, there were folks on the team, right? So let's say my training class came in May. That's not even a guess. I remember it distinctly. It came in May, and we had the benefit then of folks who were from the training class 6 months prior. Yeah. They're doing optional trainings as well. So when the 5 o'clock bell hits and folks are running across we were in Austin, right? They're running across the street to, Gordo's for $1 beer Thursdays. There's somebody there. Yeah. That's not. Right. No shade. Go get your beers. But that's a fact. but there was that opportunity to learn from someone who had been successful in the role already, watching that person see that there's some value in them giving their time to stay after and just talk about one particular part of the pitch, for instance, right? Like, hey, if you're getting hung up on in the first, 2 seconds, 10 seconds of the phone call, it might be that your intro is broken. Come for the intro training. So things like that. And the way that they really put a strong process around it is what is broken today. That's what's broken today. It's going to be really rare now in an established organization for the VP of sales to have that close contact in terms of direct training to folks that junior in their career. So, being able to have access to that was a good thing. Now, the person that folks coming in knew, and this is, bear in mind, I'm talking about early stage startups mostly.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're at a more established company, the likelihood that you guys have an actual enablement leader in-house or a team of managers.
Or even just to have enablement in general, right? It'll just be AEs, and then you got to figure it out. You got to hunt, farm, everything.
That part. In particular. So those are the things that are broken at most places. And what's interesting is that this experience I'm talking about was like in 2014.
Yeah.
So
completely different time. Right.
It was a completely different time, but it is kind of surprising. I think we ended up taking that for granted, or it's anyone's guess, right? Whether or not it was that we took it for granted that the emphasis stopped being so heavy on that, or that there was pushback or turnover from the reps, themselves saying, hey, I don't want to make 150 phone calls a day. I don't want to be asked to, be here at 7 a.m. when, we don't even start calling until 8:30. Is this, just hustle for hustle's sake type stuff. So, there's a lot of things that have happened in the time since I first started where I think we've all along been sort of negotiating what our identity is going to be as just B2B salespeople to begin with. Right.
Yeah.
We're closer to figuring that out. But the truth is, right, like we saw with what happened with COVID and remote work, as soon as we figure it out, we're going to get a wrench thrown. Right.
Exactly.
So, the lesson is to just be aware of that.
Yeah.
And embrace it. Get excited about it. That's where I am right now in my career. I'm at a place where, listen, stuff's going to change. I'm going to change. The world is going to change. And
yesterday's price is not today's.
Yesterday's price, not today's
it's
price.
Not today's price.
Though, but for real, I hope y'all listening though.
That's a fact. Listen to her.
The truth. But yes, I as much as you can, and as much as I've been able to, not just embrace the change, but wield it, leverage it. I think that's what's going to help us fix what is broken.
I love it. I love the fact that you're saying leverage the change, right? And I think, and like you said earlier, right, the reason why sales is attractive for us, right? You be able to control your own destiny, right? Back when we first started, like I said, I didn't really have many mentors, and there wasn't a lot of information like that, right? As far as sales, there was information, but not like easily accessible the way it is today, right? If you're a young college grad, just coming in the sales market, there's YouTube, there's content creators on LinkedIn, there's people like yourself, myself, people who are going to tell you, and it's going to teach you how to fish and how to get it, right? So I would love to hear from you too. Like, what was the transition like from like an SDR? Because I was the same way. When I first came in, I was making $100,000 a week, and I'm like, I booked 3 meetings. What the hell is wrong? You know what I mean? Is it worth it? Is this the right way to do it? And that's what changed my whole sales philosophy, which went to LinkedIn and all that. So I'm like, it's got to be a better way for us to connect with customers and influence the decision way before they know there's a problem.
It's so funny. So it's meta actually is what it is. So what I was selling in that first experience that I was telling you about was essentially like, how do you bottle up word of mouth when you are in like a small business where word of mouth is how you make your money, right? So how do you become a part of those conversations where someone says, hey, I am looking for somebody to do my roof. Do you know anyone? I was selling into this industry where they were coming out of a place where that conversation was always happening in line at the grocery store, right? Or when they were, picking their kids up from school. And I was helping these folks understand that now these conversations are happening online. At the time, they were happening on Facebook. And so we were helping them stay in front of their books of business so that when those conversations came up, they were top of mind. Yeah. What's interesting and what's meta about that, what I didn't know I was learning at the time, that's exactly the way I approach how I sell, how I, craft content. Yeah. It is about, not necessarily something I said made someone buy something from me today, but I made it as difficult as I could manage for someone to forget me when the time came that they did need what I was offering.
That's key.
And
That's key right there. The experience. How do you remember me? And that goes for cold calls. That goes for the sales experience. If they're talking to 10 AEs, what are you going to do to stand out and be that one person they consider and they're going to sell for internally when you're not on the phone?
Exactly that. And what it ended up like in retrospect, what it opened my eyes to is, what I've tried to do since I sort of figured that out is be selling something that if a conversation were being had about it, I could have that conversation intelligently, right? Exactly. I could authentically participate in that conversation. And that's something that I think a lot of folks miss, right? Here's what I mean. I mean, say I want to be a salesperson. I've decided that, right? I want to be a B2B tech salesperson. And I'm noticing that the roles that are available and that I'm seeing that are open are like, you're selling financial services, or you're selling into, chief technology officers or whatever. If that's your jam, sure. But I think a mistake that a lot of people make is this idea that if I'm a good salesperson, I can sell anything.
Yeah.
And then all like either like all pumped up about it, like, yeah, I don't even have to know anything about finance. Like, I mean, perhaps you can, but will you be happy? Has been sort of this journey for me. So I guess I say that to say this. What it opened my eyes to is this idea that if the deeper understanding I have, and further the deeper empathy I have for, like, genuinely have, not just like understand how to communicate because you're supposed to be empathetic.
Exactly.
According to some blog I read. But the deeper genuine empathy I'm able to have for the people who would use what I'm selling, the more effective I will be as a seller. So that part I understood, but I didn't get that means, so Nikki, you need to be choosing roles that are at companies that are selling stuff that you care about. It's really that simple.
That simple.
So I guess it's just if there are folks that are listening who are, making that transition or thinking about, either from retail into B2B tech sales or from one, industry within B2B tech sales to another, like, deeply consider that. You matter enough, right? Your future, your career matter enough that it's okay to be choosy about what you sell.
Absolutely.
Let go of this idea that if you were really any good, then it wouldn't matter, because it absolutely matters. It opens doors.
Absolutely.
What I'm getting to then, as far as why I was talking about the content play and making it hard for people to forget you, is the more you feel connected to whatever it is that you're selling or whatever the industry is, the more you will want to talk about it, the more intelligently and engagingly you can talk about it. And being able to talk about things engagingly is why you invited me on the show. It's why you know who I am, right? But
talk your talk, Queen.
It didn't all come together, I didn't know in 2014 that that's what I was learning. So what I'm hoping to do today, and maybe continuously throughout my career, is help other folks understand that one thing first, so that from the gate they can be more intentional about what opportunities they're choosing. I don't even know if you asked me that question.
No, but that was a great point though. That was a real point, like that, because I'm curious, like, what was your aha moment of like, I'm gonna start creating content? Like, for me, I know, like, when my career changed in terms of sales and when I started really going is when I stopped looking at prospects from Zoom info as just a ways to get commission. So I wouldn't look at them as a person. It would just be a list of 100 people. I don't care what you do. I don't care where you're on. I don't care about your social fam. When I get your ass on the phone, I'm going to talk that talk, and we're going to make something happen. That was my whole thing, right? But then when I shifted that, I'm like, man, who can I've been in 5-6 roles, right? I've got maybe a handful, maybe 2 handful of people that I could really call and be like, yo, what's up? But depending on where I go, it might not apply. You know what I mean? So it's like, damn, I have to build up these relationships more. And when I came to iPullRank, I'm like, all right, I've got to find a way, because I don't want to send out 1,000 cold emails and worsen my brand or hurt the brand, right? And not get, because it's definitely negative impact to that. So I was like, let me just create content. And what I did was, I know you're more intentional. I know a lot of other people are more intentional, but I was like, let me just take my sales barrier down, and let me take the sales barrier down and be a person. I got to tell you, I got to be the hat and hoodie. I got to be me. I got to tell you what's up. I was 20 years old, working at Starbucks. I had a kid, and boom, I spun around and got a sales job, and I ended up working. I had to cut my hair off to make a good salary, like all that type of stuff. And I just keep it real, and that's what's been working for me. And also tells SEO content and stuff like that. So I'm curious, like, what was your aha moment to be like, man, I've got to do something better, and why focused on LinkedIn? Was it just organic? No. That's cool too. Oh, it wasn't. All right, so it was intentional.
Well, yes and no, right? So the first moment, because I'm not a like learns from the first lesson type of woman, unfortunately.
That's right.
So the first moment was just straight up being unhappy. You know, what you just described, right? Where people in your CRM or on your list or just that names on a list.
Yeah.
That's work devoid of purpose.
Exactly.
And if you are spending, when I was spending the bulk of my day, the bulk of my life, you know, doing things that didn't feel purposeful.
Yeah.
It didn't take a long time before I started to feel empty. And if in a sales role, right, if all there is the commission or the money that's supposed to fix it, that's supposed to make you better, or make you feel better, that is, then it only takes like one bad quota. Exactly. It only takes for you to miss that quota for you to start having a whole existential crisis. Like, what am I?
That's so real.
I thought that I was a worthy human being, but this dashboard that says I didn't hit quota tells me otherwise.
Exactly. That's so
that
real.
happened. And, you know, we'll be turned later. No, so that happened, and I decided to start paying attention to my mental health. And then that led me, like, no, dead ass. Like, seriously, I got that unhappy, realized that it was because I was living my life in a way that didn't have purpose, because so much of my life was wrapped up in these activities that I didn't feel a sense of purpose for. So that was, you know, the first, you know, sort of building block for me to start to understand, like, wait a minute, I'm looking at this the wrong way. And you know, that was hard to unlearn because it's absolutely something I was taught. You talked about, you know, your experience being a young parent, working at Starbucks. I did not work at Starbucks. I did work in retail. I was, you know, I've been a mom since I was 17.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's a lot.
It's a grind. Yeah, we gotta get through. I was a couple years behind you. I'm like 19, 20.
So that's, you know, part of it, I think, for a lot of young parents. I'm going to speak on it, Jared.
Talk on it, Queen.
For a lot of the time, young parents, you kind of start to buy into this idea that your choices deserve to be limited. So I felt like, you know, yes, I'm, you know, working, and this is before B2B sales, right? Yeah. But where I learned that work doesn't deserve to have a purpose to it because you made these decisions. This is where you're supposed to be. So you just have to take it. Yeah. I was working selling cars, and that very thought process you talked about, where these are just people, this is my commission. I was told that my manager said, when you see people walk up, you have to think about it. He was trying to, like, fire me up.
Yeah, pump you up. Yeah.
That's that new person you want. That's your rent. That's you know, your electric bill walking up here. And I knew then that I didn't believe that. I knew then that didn't resonate with me. Like, something, I had visceral, like something happened inside of me that was like, no.
That's a person. That's John.
Don't do that. But again, right? Like, you're a young parent, or you're whatever your stance is. There are things that tell you, the way the world engages with you, that can give you this impression that there aren't any other options. So I thought I had to behave that way, even though I knew, okay, I don't ever have to believe this, but this is how you get fired up for a sales job. So all of the lack of purpose had started to well up, and then I, you know, started losing because I was unhappy. And then that started messing with my mental health. Yeah. And I needed to figure something else out. So I went to the ladies' room at this job while I was at this job, and I went on LinkedIn because I was like, where are there people who will relate to what I'm feeling? And I went on LinkedIn and I just talked about it. I was just like, at a sales job, we are asked, this is pretty much exactly what I said in this post. At a sales job, we are asked to care in one direction, and then asked literally often to shut our feelings off in the direction that points to ourselves. So how do we even do that? How does a human being do that and not go plumb insane? And what I meant by like care in one direction is I had started to understand and accept and be excited about the fact that the more, like I talked about before, the more I care about the people who I'm working with or selling into, the more successful I'll be. Yeah. And so I was giving all of that That's care, all of that empathy, and being told in no uncertain terms that I should not expect to have that given back to me at work. In fact, leave your feelings outside.
That's so true.
In fact, if you feel like you even need to be cared about here, if you're not feeling cared about at work is affecting, how well you're able to do this work, then you're not cut out for sales.
That's it. And everybody listen, I want you guys to know how important that is. That's just what it was, right? And that's why even on my LinkedIn profile, I put more than a quota for that reason right there. Yep. For that reason. Crazy.
It was so consistent with what the world was already telling me, having been a young parent. Yeah. Straight up. It was like, people, I'll tell a quick little story, right? So I was in choir in high school. It was like my thing. I had been in every school choir from like second grade up to like my first semester of college. That got too political at that point. But
how the choir got too.
But for real though, it got pretty cutthroat in college. But anyway, so I remember walking into the choir room right when I had first started showing in high school, and the teacher telling people, all the other girls who had rushed over to me, like touch my belly. They were, we hadn't seen this. It was life happening. Yeah. And she was, get away from her, as if they could catch it.
Wow.
And, she started putting me in the back. She would still give me the solos, but put me in the back. Everybody needed to like move in and cover up, my stomach. And then people started to talk about me like I had died, Jarrett. She had such promise.
Wow.
What is the prime of her life? And so
real.
It is real. And I had started to be conditioned and started to internalize again, right, that I don't deserve to be cared about. I made decisions such that I put myself in a position such that that's something I can never have back. So that's why I think I was able to go so long in a sales career without addressing it, because like I said, it was consistent with what the world was already showing me about what I deserved. But I found once I started just talking about what I was going through, I found that I was not the only one. And I found that I was wrong. I was wrong. I do deserve to be cared about, as it turns out. And I did not, in fact, die.
You thrived.
Greatly exaggerated. So yes. And that's, I can't even say, and then boom, I'm a star. No, that's not exactly how it happened at all. That was still probably a good 2 years out before I had anything. I still only I had 3,000 connections on LinkedIn at that time, which was a lot to me, and which is a lot generally speaking, which was exciting to me. But it was never this thing where I decided I am going to go out and build the biggest audience I can find, for any type of business purpose or anything like. I still actually don't have that as like a North Star, right? I'm building an audience so that I can monetize a brand. Nah. Not that that's bad, but that just isn't what I'm in it for.
Yeah.
It ended up just being content as a homing beacon. I'm going to say these things because if I don't say them,
who will?
I feel like, well, yes, if I don't say them, who will? That's kind of where I am now.
That's just the real, who will, right?
But then it was, if I don't say them, they will kill me. They will just sit here It's a song lyric. 2 a.m. and I'm still awake writing a song. If I get it all down on paper, it's no longer inside of me, threatening the life it belongs to. That's how it felt to me. It felt
Bars.
like
Bars.
But I be dropping them at karaoke. But anyway, so that's what it felt like, though. Like if I keep in all of the ugly that this lack of purposeful work is filling me with, it's poison.
Yeah.
So when I started to talk about it, other folks who had felt that way started to be attracted to it. And then that put me in a position to then be more intentional about it, put a process around it once COVID happened.
Yeah.
Not that I had the foresight at all, because I didn't. Like I said, it was purely just like, I need to find other people so that I don't go plumb insane.
I noticed the transformation from your post. I noticed.
I'm not convinced that I'm the only person who feels this way. But so then when COVID happened, everybody was like, oh, we do need to care about ourselves. Because what happened was that we were salespeople. When I say everybody, I mean salespeople. Sorry, marketers, y'all in here too. But let's just say the whole go-to-market team. But specifically in COVID, it was salespeople who were being cut first. I mean, you had every day, I'm coming on LinkedIn and I'm seeing another post from someone at a company straight up saying, like, we had to let the whole sales team go. I got like 30 people who are really, really hard workers and who will be good at your company. Hit me up so we can help get those folks other places. And what was sad was that there weren't any places for those folks to go because everybody was cutting their sales team. So you had this environment where these people who had been giving of ourselves, draining ourselves, and in many cases draining ourselves to pour into the people to whom we were selling, and more specifically to pour into our organizations. We had taken, salespeople are a breed of individual that are susceptible to being bought in, susceptible to being fired up. So you had people who had joined an organization maybe just 6 months earlier and had been encouraged to, carry the banner, fly the flag for this company. Really, really buy in. And then it's gone.
Yeah. What do you feel about that, though? Shouldn't it? Let's just keep it. Do you have a hard stop?
I don't.
All right, cool. I don't want to keep you long. Just tell me whenever you're ready to stop. All right. But like with your content, right? And you've got 20,000. Let's say you go to a brand, right? What is the value of your following and your community to that brand, and how does that translate monetarily for you? Well, like, what do you think that's going to go in the future, right? Because they should pay for that. If you get 2,000 people coming to your profile and you're driving traffic back to the website, is that not valuable?
Oh yeah, you mean like if I work at an organization? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
So now that I'm in a position where I'm, looking at sales leadership, where I'm approaching this question as a leader, because I think it's slightly different if you're approaching it as an individual contributor, but still important. Yeah, that's part of the package. I think people need to, I do my best to help people understand. When I say help people understand, I mean like to look them in their face and make it clear in no uncertain terms. But I do my best.
Yeah, I love your realness.
To help people understand that if you are evaluating me against other candidates, then yeah, you should consider very heavily what the brand impact will be of bringing on someone like me. Now, that impact is only as significant as the relevance of that company's solution to who my audience is. If I got 20,000 people who want to really, really want to talk about construction, right? Subcontractors and how to make their jobs easier, which I think is important. But the company that I want to work for is selling to CMOs, right? About, how to, fix their attribution problem. then, obviously, my brand is not as valuable. So to your question, I guess that's where it is right now. When I talk about the value, first of all, I'm only pursuing opportunities where what I bring is valuable to that company, right?
Exactly.
So basically, folks who are selling to sellers, folks who are selling to marketers, and folks who are selling to folks in the HR and DE&I space, right? Because those are the folks who are in my audience. But yes, absolutely, it is absolutely valuable. And are you asking me to put a number on it, or because
it's hard to put a number on it, right? Because it's not binary. Like at the end of the day, it's like a stream, for instance. Like, what is the value of a stream? I don't know if you listen to Joe Budden's podcast. Like, I'm a big Joe fan, right? So like that's kind of how I feel about it, because I know, like, me and you will be in the 2-3% of sales folks that actually get it, that could actually build the community, and that actually genuine. We don't want anything in return from it. I'm not like in my DMs of my my followers or connections, like, hey, most of the time they hit me up because I don't ask for shit. You know what I mean? I'm just being myself. Like, you need something, cool. Here's a LinkedIn playbook. You need this, here's that. This is how I feel. Somebody stood me up at 8:00 for a sales call. Word, it happened to you too. You feel me? So then that's kind of how my content is, right? And so as I'm exploring opportunities, I'm looking at it like, okay, what is that? What value am I bringing to that? And what kind of cost should I put on top of that, right?
Well, they already know. They have a cost per acquisition. They know how much they, on average, are willing to and have historically paid to get in front of somebody who fits their ICP. And then what the total cost will be once someone who fits their ICP becomes a customer, right? So like I said, cost of acquisition. They likely already know that. Anybody who's talking to you about, paying you for your brand, or more specifically, right, a business that you're looking to join as a full-time employee.
Yeah.
So understanding how to speak to that in relationship with what you're already doing and whose attention you already have, I think has been really important, has made an impact on, how I'm perceived in the market. So weird to talk about myself like that. It's the truth, right? Like, people are evaluating me against my counterparts, and the better, the more clear I can make it to them. Right. So it's about finding where their pain is. So if you're talking about a company that's historically had a hard time recruiting salespeople to work for them,
especially diverse talent,
if they have a hard time recruiting, either way, whether it's sales talent or recruiting women, recruiting diverse talent, and I have 20,000 people who have clicked a button and said, I want to hear more of what this person has to say, and those people are the people you want to come work for you, how much money are you currently spending? How much money are you currently spending to recruit these folks who are already, right, treating me with a certain level of credibility, right? Who are already treating the things I say with a certain level of credibility. You already know, like, there is a number. Those folks know exactly how much they're paying in terms of recruitment. They know exactly how much, turnover is costing them.
Yeah.
So if you can speak to that,
but we're not privy to that information, though.
That's listen.
You feel me? You know what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like,
I do, but this is where the responsibility comes in, and I say this as somebody who's learning these hard lessons every other day. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody gonna get paid. It's gonna be the person that raises their hand and asks for it, right? All things being equal, right? If everybody is equally qualified, everybody is equally hardworking, then you don't get what you don't ask for. And sometimes what you don't ask for speaks volumes about what you think you are worth.
Where the hell's my air horn? Somebody hit an air horn on that. Somebody hit an air horn on that shit.
So you have to be brave enough to ask the question, which I know isn't easy, and it's something that, again, I have to keep, stay out ahead of. It's something I have to practice. It's something I have to push myself to do, because my personality, like, naturally is, I'm trying to tell people things that make them feel as good about themselves as I feel about them. And maybe that does sometimes run counter to being able to ask the kind of pointed questions that are necessary to evaluate an opportunity, right? An employment opportunity, that is. But listen, I have tried it the other way, y'all. I have.
I feel you.
Right now, at this point in my life, at this point in my career, I'll be 40 years old in November. I literally don't have time. I don't have time to let insecurity and fear rob me. I'm all out of those.
Facts.
So yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's easier said than done. But asking a person who is asking for your commitment, who is asking for your blood, sweat, and tears, asking them something simple like, I know that you're going to be speaking to a lot of other candidates for this role, right? And, you've gotten a chance to understand a few things about me, right? There's the table stakes, resume things. There's, some of the other things about what moves me and what inspires me. But I want to make sure that we consider this as well. Yeah. Right. We sell at this company, right? Say it's a sales engagement tool, right? This company, we sell to folks who are interested in making themselves or their teams better at this part of the sales process. 20,000 folks who fit into that category are listening to the things that I say online. That's a pool from which we can recruit. That's a pool into which we can prospect.
Yeah.
Where does that fall? Where does that fit in terms of the things that you're considering when you evaluate other candidates against what I'm offering? Maybe they don't even have an answer. Maybe you shock them out of their seat that you even asked the question. Yeah. Maybe you don't have 20,000 people and that's not your talk track in this conversation.
Yeah.
But you've got them thinking now. You've got them thinking. And the data, the research backs up everything that I'm saying. It is well known that organizations who activate really any of their employees as, I won't go as far as to call them brand ambassadors, but certainly as evangelists for solving the larger industry problem that your product solves, those folks are going to run circles around people who are still stuck in, don't be on LinkedIn. It's a waste of time to build a brand, all of that.
Yeah. I still don't understand those type of people. Like it doesn't work. Yes, it's going to work. You're still going to be able to do, sales doing cold calls and cold emails, but it's a much easier sale when somebody comes into your DM and say, Jared, I love you and I want to work with you. I got budget. Can we chat on Wednesday? That's a much easier conversation versus I got to understand your problem, understand this. You already know me, already have the credibility. Now, if the pieces fit together, then we get an SOW out. Like that's very simple.
It's this idea. This is what I've been talking about for really the last at least 3 years, right? It's making the shift of mindset as a salesperson. And I'm going to go ahead and tell it as an organization.
Yeah.
As a marketing function, as a sales function, just completely disconnecting from this tradition of chasing leads. Nobody wants to believe they're still doing that.
They are. Everyone is.
If you have MQLs coming to you because somebody downloaded a piece of content,
some stuff, yeah.
Or even they clicked a blog, right? Like if that's still your idea of whatever, of how business is done, like you're missing the point. That's what I would call chasing leads. Or if you as an individual salesperson are, in your prospecting, it's just more about this whole, like, how many people can I call? How many emails can I, like, all that stuff is important. Yeah. But making the shift from chasing leads to attracting leaders, that part, like, that's where things start to open up. That's where you start to differentiate yourself. I will talk about, how that shift came along for me in my career.
Mm-hmm. I would love to, I was gonna say, if you could transition to that, I would love to hear about the top voice, how you felt when you got the top voices and what's been what's been happening since then.
Yeah. This has something to do with that as well. And it has something to do with the people who I hope end up being top voices, this year or next year.
Yeah.
And that's many of the individual contributors who have started to produce content themselves right now.
Yeah.
And I say that because when we're thinking about what it means to attract leaders, you're not just getting those people's attention. what you're doing, and it's not even just that you're building those relationships. You're learning the whole time. It is a masterclass I feel like in hosting B2B growth, where I was an SDR at Sweetfish Media, which is the company that produces the podcast B2B growth.
Yeah.
In my job as an SDR there, part of the job was to host a podcast. And so I was having conversations daily with folks who are running a marketing function, running a sales function, things like that. And just having those conversations and asking the types of questions that organically came up built me up as an authority in the space. Even if it was only me that saw myself that way, having that level of confidence is, I think, what did lead to something like Top Voices, because it reassured me that the things I was talking about when it came to like sales processes, tactics, strategies, and all of that were things that people cared about
and needed to be said.
That needed to be said, and were things that I was able to speak about knowledgeably. I think a lot of folks, at least back then, it's changing now, and I'm excited about it. But back then, I did have reservations about what I was even allowed to say if I didn't have the title that pointed to the authority to say these things. How does she know what she's even talking about? And I'm like, well, I've had 100 hours of seriously, about 100 hours of teaching on these topics. Ask me anything is kind of where I was coming from. So now it's exciting to see, and who I think the next Top Voices will be are those individual contributors who are starting their own podcasts, who are starting their own things like this, who are starting their own content series, because they're doing that same thing too now. Right now, exactly. I'm not certain that other folks are doing it in a way that is as intentional about selling, about doing business as we were at Sweetfish Media.
Yeah.
But either way, right? Like, if you're to see folks doing that now and to see that light bulb coming on, where people are starting to understand, like, there is a path to the next role that I want, or the next level that I want to get to, that does not rest entirely on whether or not some manager thought that I had what it took, right, to get there. I think that's, for me, that's what resonated with me about becoming a Top Voice, is because I was on this list with people who had far more senior titles than me, people who, many of whom did not share my background in any capacity, and who were talking about this topic in a different way from the way that I tend to talk about it. So in terms of what it felt like vindication. I'm not even gonna lie. Like,
that's what I'm talking about.
It didn't feel like,
I was happy for you. I'm not going to hold you. You, Morgan, AJ, shout out to all y'all. I just love the Black representation on that list. And to watch you guys every day and to know what it takes to create content every day. Not every day you got it. On a Monday, I might be like, I don't really care about this. On Tuesday, I might be like, yo, I got a meeting. Yo, my kid is home. We're quarantining this week. Like, stuff like that we're going through, and we're still showing up. And for you to get that acknowledgement and that recognition, like, I felt proud for you guys. Like,
yeah, it was. So I'm not gonna hold you. My kids make fun of me for saying that. They'd be like, Mom, you have to say, I'm not gonna hold you. Yeah. Stop with the grammar, Mom. But there was a little bit of, I was unsure at first why I was selected. Right. Like, maybe unsure is the wrong word. I was maybe a little insecure about why I was selected. And it didn't have anything to do with my abilities. It was just the time that this happened, right? So 2020 was wild. It was wild. And it included this sort of awakening for some folks as to what people of color, Black people, face at work. Those things were surfaced in the wake of the death of George Floyd, and a lot of the content that I put out, that I think is the content that was evaluated, that was seen leading into me getting this honor. I think it had a lot to do with how I spoke about those things, Now I believe it has to do with how I spoke about those things. But I wondered, I did wonder, was it just that I spoke about those things? Was it just that I'm Black? Was it just right? Like, was it just they didn't want to be on the chopping block for not having enough of this demographic or that?
Yeah.
Which, is a little bit of imposter syndrome. And I think many people on the list may have, had those same types of thoughts or feelings. But when I called that out, when I just said so, I just went on LinkedIn and was like, y'all, I didn't really think I deserved to be here.
I think I saw that post. I think I saw that one. But it's real that you say that, because I feel that, like, I wasn't a top voice, but right now they gave me the editors, I think as of this month, I'm like one of the top Black voices on the platform that they amplify every week or whatever, a month or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I haven't seen anything I'm honored for it, but I thought the same thing you thought. I'm like, I'm just keeping it real. I'm putting my sons up. I'm doing this, whatever, however I feel in that moment. I don't have a content strategy. Do I know who I want to speak to? Absolutely. But everything has to come from the heart.
Right. Because like what I'm intentional about, you mentioned earlier, like, I know, Nikki, that you're intentional. What I'm intentional about is being authentic. What I'm intentional about is making sure that if there is a topic that needs to be addressed and I don't see it being addressed, which is not to say that it's not being addressed. Everything's not going to make it to my feed. Yeah. But if I don't see it being talked about in my feed, that's where the intention comes in, where I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe there's someone who's looking for reassurance. Maybe there's someone who's looking for inspiration here. Maybe there's someone who's just looking for a reason, for an ally. Yeah. I'll be that. So that's where the intention comes in. But I don't have a content strategy either. Maybe I'm telling on myself, but I don't have pre-planned posts. Yeah. Like, I get up, I scroll through Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever it is. Something excites me, ignites me, whatever it is, and I go talk about it and see who else is feeling what I'm feeling. That's all. Yeah. That's all. That's it. I don't mean to talk about it as like it's so easy anybody could do it, but it's so easy. It's you, it's your sauce, it's your energy, it's what you feel, it's your thoughts, your experiences. That's just what it is. And if you don't say it, we're gonna bottle it up, we're gonna hoard that information. What's the point? That's the tough part for me, though. Always, right? Is just like, as a human being, given my personality type, I'm a gregarious girl. It is often difficult for me to give myself credit for what some would call soft skills. So because some of those things come so easily to me. That's right. So it feels natural to me to be open with people. It feels natural to me to have a thought and then write it and then have what I have written be reflective of the thought, right? In a way that's engaging. I would call that a talent. Yes, it's a skill for a lot of people. There's a skill that's involved. It's learnable. But for me, it's a talent. And because it's been a talent my whole life, because it comes easily to me, it is very easy for me to discount it. For me to say, anybody could just write something. Anybody could just say something that made people feel good. But is that good enough, right? That's the question. Does that make you special at all when this person over here, did this thing that's quantifiable, did this thing that's like on paper? Because that's like, let's keep it real. In the pool of folks who are, visible. Yeah. Who are voices, right? In the B2B sort of blogosphere or whatever you want to call it. A lot of those folks, we know their names because of their hard on paper achievements. We know their names because of how many successful exits they have as startup leaders, right? Yeah. We know their names because they sold X million dollars worth of this solution or that. They're, perennial President's Club participants, right? All of those things, right? I'm not those things. Mm-hmm. I'm not. And so for a while, immediately in the wake of something like this, because there were people who checked those boxes I just talked about that were not on the list. That was what was difficult for me, was trying to figure out what can I point to on paper that will make it make sense that people would give me this kind of recognition. And I just at a certain point had to accept, Nikki.
Yeah.
Being able to inspire people is important.
Absolutely.
It's an X factor. Like, that's the thing. Just because it comes naturally to you or feels natural to you doesn't mean it's not valuable.
Facts.
Doesn't mean it's not worth anything. And I think a lot of that is, anybody can experience this, but for me, it stemmed a lot from things I internalized as being a Black woman. When you're a Black woman who comes from where I come from, right? I was born in the Hilltop Housing Projects of Dayton, Ohio. Shout out to Dayton. I didn't live there very long. My dad ended up getting into the Army, but listen, that is my heritage. And when you come from that, there is this element of overcoming really, really difficult things, but like you did it just to survive. So you didn't even really have time to stop and look and say, hey, I overcame that. Hey, I accomplished that.
Damn, that was dangerous. Damn, that was this. Real talk.
But it ends up feeling like table stakes for you because it had to be for you, right? It ends up feeling like everybody's doing that. All the Chaniquas overcame that. So what else you got? That's how I was treating myself. So I'm only very recently getting to this place where it's like, you're doing it, sis. Like,
no, you are. You are. I do want to tell you, and I don't want to keep you too much longer too, Nikki, because got my little man's coming here now.
I've really just been on here just talking.
I love it. I could do another half an hour. If I didn't have another meet, I'd have been like, yo, let's keep going. But I just want to let you know, though, like, you do deserve it. You are very special. I'm very glad that we had the opportunity. For everybody listening, this is our first time me and Nikki meeting, right? And speaking with each other. I've been a fan of hers for 2 years, right? We both liked each other's comments and posts and stuff like that. So I just want to say, I'm so glad that we had a chance to meet. I'm rooting for you. You deserve the voices. And I'm excited to see what you do next. And I'm excited for everything that you've done so far. Like, real talk, like the sales for the culture and what you're doing for us as people. Like, I respect that. And I got mad love and respect for you.
Thank you so much, Jared. I'm trying to see you with the box in the background.
I'm trying. I got to get my shit together.
I need be on the list. I need Gabrielle Blackwater to be on the list.
Yes, Gabrielle.
On the list. That's what I need. That's what's next for me. Honestly, that's what's next for me is seeing who else. Not that I haven't made it. There's no pinnacle. I'm still out here grinding. Yeah. But as far as this steps that I have already taken or things I've already gone through, I'm trying to get other people to do that, which is the same thing Marcus is doing for me, which is the same thing you're doing for me as well. So thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, Nikki. And I know for those listening to, guys, like, this is a very special episode for me too. Like, plus this is my last 3 episodes. So, I put in I won't be working at iPullRank at the end of the month, so I'm exploring other things. But I'm so grateful for the team here. I love this team. I got so much respect for Mike, Chris, and everybody here just for allowing me to be myself, allowing me to be the guy with the hat, allowing me to tell my story, drive revenue and things like that. So it's been a wild ride. We're gonna take shots and all that on the last episode. We're gonna turn up. But Nikki, I'm glad I got you on, and we're gonna stay in touch, and we're gonna keep it happening. All right.
Thank you so much, Jared.
Thanks so much, Nikki. I'll talk to you soon, and see you guys next week. All right. Bye.